Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies, but today we're going to review a couple more of Chef Ramsay's frozen meals, and an additional item, he also has some, appetizers, and so I'll tell you what they are. Well, what we did was, we did what we did last week, and we split each one of the meals into two, and we each had half of the meal. And then the appetizer, which I'll tell you right now, is the beef Wellington bites. We just split them. How many were there in the package? You know, 6 maybe?
5, and so there's like two of them is a serving. So there's like one extra one, I guess, and then, yeah, but like, let's talk about the experience of Walmart, because like, ew. Like, just, ew.
Last time, they had been picked over when I went there. I don't know, maybe it was the day of the week that I went there or something, but this
No,
time,
you went there on Wednesday, just like today.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they were picked over last time, but this time they were fully stocked with all the meals. And
well, let's
Marco
talk
found
about
his appetizers too.
And let's talk about the experience of Walmart, because like, I really think, and you know, Walmart is probably one of the worst corporations in America, number one. But in terms of the actual experience shopping there, it feels like Meijer, but trash. You know, like Meijer is like a similar layout in terms of like it's bigger and it's like a supermarket and everything, but like Walmart is just taking that experience and making it just as bad as you can possibly imagine. Like, first off, like the selection was terrible. Like, we couldn't find any Halloween candy on clearance. There was like a couple of bags in the candy section, the regular candy, but there were no like displays outside with any sort of like clearance candy. So I had to get like a Milky Way, just a regular one, which actually that was really good. So
They call it a shareable or something.
It's share size.
Share size, which means there's 2 bars in the package. They're separated.
And then like, you know, just like the people there, like, you know, they all have like a look on their face, like they're all like, there was this one woman and she was walking around and she was like an employee and she was picking out food to take to the car to you know, take to someone who wanted to get a pickup order, and she just like looked like she had her soul sucked out of her. Like, she just looked terrible. Like, she didn't smile at all or anything. Like, she just looked like a nightmare. Like, just ew. Like, it's such a terrible experience going there. And then we get to the checkout line, the self-checkout line, and you have all these like gross-looking old people who are like the workers there, and
well,
you know, they just look like.
I can explain that. They told me at Kroger, that's where we usually go, but you can't get these meals at Kroger. But anyway, they said they have the most shoplifting there at these self-checkouts. So I imagine that's what it has to do with. They monitor these self-checkouts very religiously. They have all these employees are monitoring everybody to look for any shoplifting.
Well, they just look like garbage people. Like, you know, people who like pick up the garbage and then, you know.
That's not very nice.
Well, they just look terrible. They look like just miserable people, and like they just make the experience so much worse. And then we had this debacle with spinach where we picked out a spinach container and it didn't even have any like price thing on the back, so it didn't have any like labeling for the calories or ingredients. Like, it was some weird thing, and
I had to take it back. They would not.
Yeah.
They could not look it up.
Yeah.
Or anything. So I just took it back, and fortunately we were near the what would you call it, the produce area, and I could quickly go over there and come back.
Yeah.
Which I was thankful for, and I knew right where. In fact, I didn't even get the same kind of item that was like a plastic container of baby spinach, and I ended up getting a bag of baby spinach, and I looked to make sure there was a label on it.
It was really bad. And, and another thing is, like, the whole, like, entrance area smelled like pizza.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be like a Subway. Because it smelled like Subway, I guess.
Subway was right there, right in the store.
So, yeah, Walmart is a really bad store.
I hate going there.
Ugh.
There's a bad aura about that one anyway. Years ago, and it was different years ago. It seems so overloaded and packed to the gills now. I don't like it.
Well, it looks like a shipping place or something, like where they have all the inventory instead of like a supermarket. It looks terrible.
I don't like it.
They hardly had any kinds of ice cream sandwiches too. Like it was terrible. It's like, this is not like the shopping experience that I want to have. I would go to Meijer. I would go to Kroger.
Like Meijer either. I just would go to Kroger, or you can go to Target. Actually, Target's not too bad. They don't have everything, but still, I don't like Walmart. And they had a shooting there. It's not like today. It was some guy who, they used to sell these, God, I don't know what it was.
They sold toy guns, and there was this kid who picked up a toy gun, and so a Karen called the police, and then a policeman shot him for no reason.
And, that really, and I know the family of the police person. I know his younger brother, because our other son went to school with them. And it's just an ugly thing, but I've never forgotten about it. But it isn't just that. It's the place. It's just so, it's different now, and it's just so ugly. It's just ugly. I don't like it. But anyway, we can get the Chef Ramsay meals, and we might try
reluctantly.
Yeah, because we've watched his cooking shows.
I'd rather go to Meijer.
And anyway. We also, Travis Kelce on Kansas City Chiefs, I think he's tied in. I think that's his position. I know that sounds funny. I mean, I'm a fan, but I just don't know about all that stuff. And anyway, he's going to have some barbecue meals, but they haven't gotten them in yet. And they're going to be sold by Walmart. But see, he has an excuse. He's not a chef, okay? And we got beef Wellington bites. Beef Wellington is like this go-to meal that Chef Ramsay...
Yeah, this is his signature dish.
Yes.
This is supposed to be what Chef Gordon is known for. And so this is even worse than the fish and chips, where, the fish and chips, it proved that he is not a real British chef, because, if you're British and you can't make fish and chips, then you should just go... I don't know, work at McDonald's or something.
Well, you should. I would think you'd be able to make it in your sleep, but maybe we're just naive. I don't know, but I mean, when you go there, they have fish and chips places all over the place. So maybe they don't need to make it. They just go and buy it. I don't know. Okay, so let's get on with the meals. What did we get?
Well, I picked out mushroom risotto because I wanted to get it over with. That's why.
And then I picked out chicken pot pie, which is something I actually make. And then we got an appetizer, like I said, and they were called beef Wellington bites. Okay, what should we start with? The appetizer?
Yeah, the appetizer. And first off, the cooking process was already questionable, because I cooked them, and then when they were done, I took out the pan, and it's something very strange happened, where, I set them down very far apart, and somehow they magnetized, and one of them went from one end to the other end, and combined with the other Wellington bite. So, they were stuck together, and there was all this grease all over the pan. There was all this, burnt, crispy grease underneath the the Wellington and bites, and it was just like really, really like.
They were very greasy, and you could tell. We each got 2, and you could tell by looking at them, they were too greasy, and too much oil or whatever. And I touched them, like the surface, and they really look good. Now they look good. They look like little beef Wellingtons.
Yeah, they had a real nice appearance to them. Like they had like a golden crust, and it looked like, oh, could these be good? And
and you touch them, you can feel the grease.
Yeah, there's like,
and that's not good. It really, that kind of makes me sick.
It made me sick.
I ate one whole one, but
yeah, well, I ate 2, and it made me sick because like it looked like junk food. It looked like this is not like fine dining, Chef Gordon type food. Like this is like junk food.
Well,
and
I don't even know if you'd want to serve them at a party.
No way.
But one thing it did do is I want to look them up and see if we could make those, because I would be interested. But the meat.
Thanks.
Well, let's go. Okay, so one thing, it was too greasy. Another, and they were so greasy that they did a sliding number in the oven.
Yeah, it was like a slip and slide with like burnt, crispy grease underneath. Like, I'm serious. There was like burnt, like it was burnt to a crisp at the bottom. Because we had to cook it at 450 degrees too.
And the parchment paper is not meant to cook that high, because it turns brown.
Yeah, so that was
We're
pretty
lucky
bad.
It didn't catch on fire.
Yeah, and then Chef Gordon would have been like, fire, fire!
And then the meat inside. Now, if you know beef Wellington, I think it doesn't have some kind of like roast beef inside.
It's like a steak type thing, or like beef or something.
I'm not really sure. I have to look.
Well,
but it's nice meat. It's really good.
Not the meat that they used in this frozen
not
meal.
Not for this meal.
No.
It was full of fat.
It was tough.
It was hard to chew.
This is like the beef. Remember in that Andy Griffith episode where Aunt Bee has the freezer outside and she buys the whole side of beef?
Yeah.
And then it's really bad beef and they have to store all of it, and Andy's just like, yum, yum. Like this.
That was a waste of money.
This is tough and bad. It's like shoe leather. And he's like, call the man to fix the freezer. And she's like, woo, woo, woo. You know, because that's Aunt Bee from Andy Griffith's show.
Yeah. Ugh. Anyway.
That's what the beef was like, though. Like, it's literally the beef from that episode that she bought a whole side of, the cow. And it's like,
that's
gross.
Really a shame.
Yeah.
Really a shame, because they did look good.
Yeah.
And even, they look like what they look like on the box. And they're as big as like a big meatball. So they aren't little tiny appetizers. They're big, like meatball-sized appetizers. So anyway, I'm going to look into a recipe to make them and to see. I've never heard of that, but I think it'd be interesting to see what kind of recipes are out there. Okay, well the next thing
No,
is...
we're not done talking about it. What are you doing?
Okay, sorry.
Oh, so, yeah, okay.
And I think the crust, it tasted like phyllo dough.
Now you're going to say something else. Okay, well...
I'm not sure. It just seemed like it had a very flaky phyllo type dough crust, but I don't know for sure.
This was really bad. It was so over-salted. I thought instead of calling it a Wellington bite, you should have called it a salt bomb, because that's what it was like. It was like a bomb of salt in your mouth. It was like a terrorist attack of salt in my mouth. And so that was bad.
Well,
and
I didn't feel like they were as salty as one of the other, like,
well,
main
Safi,
meals.
we haven't gotten to that one yet.
I know, but personally,
I know that you want to rush through the video so you can go watch political propaganda, but we haven't gotten to that dish yet. So also, I did like the mustard inside the Wellington bites, but I would never eat this again. And I'm telling you that if this is Chef Gordon's signature dish, then he's a total hack and he's a total fraud, because like...
Well, we're trying to figure out what the deal is with these meals.
Yeah, like, to me, I was like, the only way that I could excuse this and it's not even really excusable, is like, oh, maybe Chef Gordon, there was some guy or girl who came to him with a pitch, and they said, you know what we can do? We can make these cheap, crappy frozen meals. And he was like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. And then he signed a piece of paper, and then they just did all this shit with these meals. Like, that's the only way you could excuse this shit, is if somebody else was in charge of it. If he was in charge of this, then I will say right now, he is a total hack. He's not a real chef, and he's a fraud. Because these dishes are, like, piss poor. And they're total waste of money, too. Like, talk about a waste of money. $5 per dish, you know, like, fuck that. Like, I'd rather get $5 worth of McDonald's. $5 worth of Burger King. Like, that's how bad these meals are. So I would give these salt bombs a D+. I think that they're some of the worst things that we've had so far. And I really hope that the full Wellington is better than this, because this is not a signature dish.
Well, it'd be like when we did this last week, it would be like if you were on one of his shows and they told you to make an appetizer and you decided to just have this frozen stuff and bring it out, not even knowing that it was the frozen stuff, you just pretended like you had made it, and see how he would react.
Yeah, well, we said that last time.
Since this is his real big go-to dish that you have to cook, and he gets all bent out of shape if you do anything wrong with it, so.
Well, we do know that he has some sort of a big problem with salt. Like, he has like a...
Yeah, I've seen him. We've seen him. Salt stuff.
He's got some bad habits with salt, like really, really bad. And I told Safi too, I was like, it's a good thing that I got my blood pressure problem figured out before we did this, because if I had high blood pressure when eating these meals, I would have had a really bad day. So, you know, that's another thing. Well, what would you grade?
That's why we questioned what the deal is with these meals, because there is a lot of salt in them, and he uses a lot of salt in
Too
his
much
cooking.
salt.
There's an ad on YouTube where he makes the cheeseburger, and he uses salt on every single layer of it. I watched him. It looked like a good cheeseburger, the components, but then I noticed he put salt on every single layer of it, and there's several layers. I'm like, what the heck? I was shocked. And because he's advertising this cookware, and he cooks the cheeseburger in the cookware.
Yeah, like, I honestly, and I know that this is gonna sound mean, but I would hate to be the person who dates his daughters, or one of his daughters, and then has to go over to his house and have this over salty food. Because I feel like if I had to do that, I wouldn't survive. I would just drop dead at the dinner table from just eating all that salt. Just take one bite, and then I'd drop dead, and he'd be like, oh, what, are you not a man enough? Are you not a man enough to have all this salt, Marco?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of, it seems like, too, that we've seen some Masterchef episodes. Now, Marco watches Hell's Kitchen, which I don't watch anymore, so maybe he's seen something with that. But I swear there's been a few times where somebody used too much salt, and he got mad about it. But, you know, it is funny because it's usually they don't have enough seasoning or enough salt.
And, in fact, the fries last week, they didn't have enough seasoning. They didn't have any seasoning, so... That was an instance where he under-seasoned the food, but again, like, I swear, I don't know how he does it at his house. Like, every meal of the day, like, somebody's got to be dropping dead at the dinner table, because, like, how do you survive from eating this, like, all day? Like, you couldn't eat this all day, like, you'd die. Like, does he have extra salt, too? Like, at the table, he's got, like, more salt, ugh. like just way too much salt. Like he needs some help. He needs some therapy to get rid of the salt addiction that he has. Like, it's pretty bad. And that's coming from someone who, like, I think that a lot of things are under-seasoned, and so I always put salt on things, but this is too much. And so, Safi, what would you grade the Wellington Bites for the millionth time?
That's really hard. Well, I'd have to give it a D. Maybe a D minus. It has way too much grease.
I'll give it a D minus as well, then.
I like the way it looks. From far away.
Yeah.
Because when you get closer, you can see the grease. You can see it's a sheen on top, and on the bottom it's worse. But they look really like they would have been really good. And then the meat inside's just, it's terrible.
Yeah, then you take a bite and it's like, ugh, what the fuck is this?
So that's not good. It's like, I couldn't think of what it was. I still can't, but it's like the worst, like hamburger, like they call it hamburger steak or something.
Hamburger
I
steak.
can't think of what it's called, but it's like the worst meat you could get. And they stuffed them with...
They should call it now the Chef Gordon Ramsay steak, because he likes to use it in his frozen meals and make people want to throw up.
Okay. What about... so we both gave it a D minus.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the main entrees, because we did get another appetizer, but we're having that next week.
Yeah.
And with whatever we get, whatever that's going to be. So, let's do the mushroom risotto. That's what Marco picked out.
Yeah.
And I picked out chicken pot pies. We'll start with mushroom risotto. Now, we know we have cooked risotto, especially Marco has cooked it.
I have cooked it once, and it was red wine risotto. It was Buddy Velastro's recipe, Buddy from Cake Boss. And it was very fun to make, but I cooked it perfectly, and Safi can attest to that.
Yeah, it was cooked perfectly. You have to nurse risotto. You have to watch it every second. And we saw this in Masterchef this season. They had a pumpkin risotto, and what was that other crappy risotto that woman tried to make? And neither one...
White wine risotto?
But I think she mixed something.
Green pepper.
Made it odd.
Really bad.
And the woman from was it Arkansas?
No, that was the Karen that made that. Karen.
Oh.
Karen.
Okay.
The one with 6 kids?
Yeah, I know.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I have 6 kids. I have 6 kids. I have 6 kids. Shut the fuck up.
And I really... But, and the guy from Columbus at the very beginning, he made this disgusting pumpkin risotto.
Yeah.
And there were failures. And I think maybe one was undercooked and the other one was overcooked. And it's probably one of the worst things to make if you're competing on a very stressful TV cooking challenge, because you have to nurse it. And you can't really divert her attention to any other thing. And the guy made it, and his reasoning for making pumpkin risotto, it was a fair, and that would be something that they had at a pumpkin festival, and I don't believe it. Because, you go to the fair, your food...
No,
Safi,
he was elevating... because the challenge was to elevate fair food, and so his idea was that because they had a pumpkin festival, he should make a pumpkin risotto.
And it's funny, I asked somebody who's from Columbus about this pumpkin festival. They don't know what they're talking about, so I don't know. But anyway, the thing I'm stressing is risotto is hard. It's because you have to nurse it. If you want it cooked properly, you have to nurse it. That's just the way it is. But when it works and you do what you're supposed to do, it tastes really good because Marco made it. So we know.
And I put like or was it some kind of meat that I put in it, like
Well, we
thick
had it
meat.
with the meat, I think.
It was really good, and we had it with fish, and the fish was really delicious, and it was a celebrity recipe, and so it was really good, the whole meal. But
yeah, so
this
anyway,
risotto was not good. It
this was
bad.
a mushroom risotto, and it had. What did you say it had in it? Oh, it had Dijon mustard?
No, Safi, that's the Wellington. I don't know why you're talking about mustard now.
What else did it have in it?
Cheese.
Oh, it did have cheese. Okay, I thought...
The risotto had cheese.
Right.
Safi had some weird idea that the Wellington would have cheese in it.
It tasted like it had cheese, probably because it's just so greasy. I don't
Yeah.
know what to say. It had an odd flavor. And, I don't know. But
It
anyway,
tasted like something you get from Taco Bell.
This risotto was way overcooked. And it was like mush.
It was like it was like eating gruel. Like, you know that Office episode where he's Prison Mike and they say, what's the food like in prison? And he's like, gruel sandwiches, gruel omelets, nothing but gruel. And you can eat your own hair. It's like that. That's what this risotto is like. It's like Prison Mike's gruel.
You can taste the mushroom in it, but it's mushy. It's very overcooked. And I'll tell you, if you ever serve that to one of his Ramsay's Masterchef shows,
You complain.
he'd have a fit.
Yeah.
That'd be one of those things they throw against the wall, or they toss the dish and that in the garbage can. I mean, is that an Italian dish? Is risotto Italian?
Yeah.
So Joe would be having an even worse cow, but these aren't his meals, so I don't even know if he would do this.
No, you'll never see the Joe Bastianich frozen meals at Walmart.
I don't think so either. So anyway, it is not good. And what did you say, Marco? You had to even cook it longer because it said to do that?
Well, yeah, like, what you do is you cook it for like 3 minutes or something, and then
He cooked it in the microwave.
I took it out, and it says to stir it gently, and it's like you could tell that it was overcooked already, because you could tell that like it was mushy, and there was like just this little frozen part in the middle. You could tell that like it did not need to be cooked for like more than like 30 seconds more or something, but it told you to put it back in for like a couple more minutes, and it's like it was so like overcooked that you could tell it was like soup. It was like what were they thinking with that dish?
Now, I told him that if you put that in a blender and you just hit it once, just real quick.
Yeah.
That's it. No more than that. It'd be soup.
I know.
Because that's how mushy it was.
Yeah. And
so that was no good. It really wasn't.
It was also oversalted, but I will say that out of all the meals that we've had so far, it had the least amount of salt. So I did think that was a plus. It had a weird taste, though. It's
the
mushroom risotto, but it has been the best thing we've had so far, simply because it didn't have that amount of salt in it that the other ones do. So I would give it a C-.
I'd give it an F.
Why?
Because it's mush.
Well, actually,
I know how they would react on the TV show.
And that's true.
They would have fit.
That's true. I'll give it an F- then.
They throw it in trash, and we've seen that happen a number of times. Or they're at the outdoor cooking event, and they get mad at them, and they get their food and they throw it in the ground.
Yeah.
And I've seen it a million times. So's Marco, because we watch them together. And so, I'm sorry. That's what I'm giving it. An F. That's all it deserves.
Well, it's like, I've undercooked and overcooked rice before, and we don't like, when I do that or when someone else does that, it's like we acknowledge that it's bad, and we say like, okay, that's not how we want to have rice, and next time it's better. and I feel like this is like inexcusable that like Chef Gordon, he made this, and it's like this is poor. This is like, how could you screw this up? Like, it's risotto.
Well, you can, because you have to nurse it. So what are you going to do? Nurse 10,000 microwave risottos?
Wouldn't that be funny if he came to everyone's house to nurse your microwave?
There's no way you could. It's already cooked, so you're really basically just heating it up. So it's already ruined.
Yeah.
It isn't anything that you're doing.
It just felt kind of like, I have to put it in longer now? Jeez.
What's that brand of Healthy Choice meals?
Yeah.
There's some...
Or like Shitty
Asian,
Choice.
Not true. They have some Asian meals that they're like, they have rice, and then they have a basket of the filling, whatever it is, like a vegetable with the meat or whatever. And then after you've cooked them in the microwave, you mix them together. Well, the rice is not overcooked.
Oh, yeah.
Those meals.
That is true. Yeah.
And it's not risotto, but it is rice, and it's not overcooked. So if they can do it, I would think maybe they just shouldn't be making any risotto anything. That's the problem. I don't care what they say, because if you can't, it just isn't the kind of thing that you can just walk away from and do other stuff. You have to watch it every second.
And the mushroom pieces, they were not really big enough. Like, I really wanted, like, nice, bigger, like, mushroom pieces that you could sink your teeth into. They were chopped up very small. Like,
they were, like, microscopic.
It's almost like they thought, like, we gotta make these meals so that everyone from every age can eat it. Like, old people with no teeth can eat it. Babies can eat it. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just very strange, this whole... Like, I have no idea, like, what Chef Gordon was thinking. All I have to say is WTF.
Well, especially, and they really, this season of Masterchef, like I said, they made this risotto at least twice. And they did not go easy on the people making the risotto. In fact, when they started making it, and they said, "What are you making?" And then they're like, like very doubtful that it could work out. Well, they were right. So, why would they put that in a fast food? Make that a frozen meal. Why would they even have that when it's such a difficult? I mean, it's just you have to have your attention on it. And why even do it? I'm sure there was something else they could have done. And they like Asian food.
Yeah.
They promoted that Asian girl, and that's all she made the whole season, because her family owns a freaking Asian restaurant.
Dara.
Dara.
The Asian food girl.
So all she did was cook stuff she knows how to. She's been cooking her entire life in her parents' restaurant. And then, of course, she made cakes, which is something they would normally cook. But still, like what I said, though. Anyway, they could have put an Asian meal. That would be a frozen meal, like Healthy Choice does. Or they could have done like a Rhones, like a Mexican meal.
A Rhones Mexican meal.
or Indian food, because in England. They've got a huge Indian population, and they make excellent food. And they could have done something like that, but no, they make a stupid risotto. It's gross. So last one.
This is the one that you picked out. Yeah.
I picked out because I make this.
Yeah.
I've made it different ways. And it's chicken pot pie. Well, anyway, it's flat. It's not a real thick, like, they have tons of different frozen food, pot pies, Marie Calendar, what is it, banquet, whatever meals,
lots of them.
Lots of them. There's really too many to name.
Yeah.
And they've all got it down to a science.
Well, some of them do. Like I've had some gross chicken pot pies. I don't really like eating frozen pot pies anymore because I feel like a lot of them don't really have chicken; they have mystery meat.
Yeah,
and
that's the problem.
It's really gross, and sometimes it'll be chewy and like gross
Fatty.
Like that, and just really it'll turn you off.
Right, but I also make it. It's really not that difficult to make. The thing I have the most trouble with, or it's not consistent, is the crust. Because, like, I'll just say there's this Grimm episode from a million years ago. I know anybody watched it. It was like, I think it was the first one, in fact. The bad guy made chicken pot pie. And I've seen this anyway. They actually make a regular pie. They have a bottom crust, then you have the filling, and then you have the top crust. And I've tried to make that over and over and over again, and the top crust falls in. But it's really not hard to make at all. And I home make the crust. I make a butter crust. So another way you can do it is you make the filling, you put it in a glass dish that can go in the oven, and then you make a biscuit topping. And instead of, you can either cut out the biscuits and put circle biscuits, drop biscuits on the top and cover it up, and then they bake. The whole thing bakes, and it makes a crust topping. Or you get the biscuit crust and you roll it out like it's a pie crust, but not real thin, because it's biscuit crust. And then you put it on top, and you put some of it hanging over the sides around the dish, and then you bake it. So I've done different things. I'd really like to make it a pie, regular pie. So anyway, that's just my experience with it, and so I just wanted to see what this one would be like. So it has no crust on the bottom, and it has a crust on the top, which is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I really like the crust. I felt like it was the best part of all the dishes tonight. It was nice and flaky.
Yes.
It was very flaky, and it was very flavorful, and it's just too bad that the chicken pot pie underneath was trash. The
filling was not good.
It was terrible.
It had peas and cut up carrots, which I think those two things were fine.
Yeah, they were good.
Probably not much of it in there.
I liked the chicken, too, because it tasted like real chicken, but...
It did, and it's weird the way it's cut.
Yeah.
It's cut like it's Chinese food.
Yeah, it's cut. Everything's cut very strangely in these Gordon Ramsay meals.
Yeah, it's small, really small pieces. I usually have my pieces a little bit bigger, and the vegetables would be, well, you can't make peas any bigger than they are, but the carrots, I'd have maybe some celery in it. And anyway, they'd be little bit bigger pieces, so they don't fade into the oblivion of the chicken pot pie stuff, whatever it is, the filling.
So I would say, like, the worst part of this whole meal is the fact that it is extremely salty.
It's too salty.
It is so overly salty. It is like taking a container of salt and dumping it in your mouth, and then putting chicken pot pie in. It is that bad.
I don't know how many, because see, the thing is, when you make this dish, you use like a chicken broth. I usually buy a low salt chicken broth, because chicken broth usually has too much salt in it.
Yeah.
So I actually deliberately put a low salt broth in it, and I don't put a lot of salt on the meat or the vegetables. So I just get the salt from the broth, even though it's lessened.
There is 1,470 milligrams of salt in this dish. So that means each of us had... Are you done?
Yeah.
700 milligrams of salt.
Oh, God.
And then, the Wellington bites, there is 800 20 milligrams of salt per serving.
Oh my! What's a serving? Is that one or two?
Two pieces.
Oh God!
So we both had a lot of that, and then the risotto is 1,000 milligrams per bowl, and we had half a bowl. So that's a lot. That's a lot of salt, and it tastes like there's more. Like, I'm honestly surprised. It tastes like there's like 3,000 milligrams per box.
It was, and it's very noticeable in the pot pie how salty it is. I mean, Marco said he thought that those Wellington bites had a lot of salt. I thought this had like maybe 2 or 3 times as much salt. It was terrible.
Oh yeah, I know. I didn't say that had the most salt. I said that this had. I said that it had a lot, but I will say that this had the most salt. The chicken pot pie.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having Travis Kelsey's barbecue food, and he's not a chef, and he doesn't claim to be a chef, and he doesn't have time to go there and do some kind of recipe. He plays for Kansas City. Kansas City's a big barbecue place, so they're going to be barbecue meals. So I'll be interested to see if this is the same kind of quality of food that's put out by Walmart, and see if these meals are just as bad. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So I give it an F- as well, because like the salt content makes it inedible, because like I thought that the risotto was better than this. But you know, I put that as an F-, so I'm gonna have I'm giving all of the meals an F-. Like, fuck this. Like, what was Gordon thinking? Like, how dare he make this? Like, how dare he make this and say, like, this is acceptable?
Well, I'll give it a D- because of the crust.
Yeah, the crust is like a A+. I really like the crust.
I would love to. It seems like he used phyllo dough for that, too, in a way. It just had a very flaky, pastry-like crust. I'm just wondering how it was made, because it's not the usual pie crust. It's something else. And so I have no idea. I mean, I'd love to duplicate it and make it good. Because I haven't made chicken pot pie in a long time. It was so hot this summer. It just wasn't the kind of meal that you want to have during the summer, especially when it was just awful this summer. So anyway.
So these meals were pretty bad.
Yeah, so anyway, don't take our word for it. Go ahead and try it if you want.
No, don't do that. That's a waste of money.
But no, it's I don't know. I think it's $5.85.
And that is a huge waste
for each thing. And the beef Wellington bites and the other appetizer that we got, they are more expensive.
Yeah.
They're a few more dollars.
Yeah.
Expensive.
Waste of money.
So anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and tell us what you think. What do you think about him making the meals and how the process works? And are you going to try Travis Kelsey's barbecue meals when they come out? And become one of our subscribers. I mean, we don't just do movies. We do lots of different things, which, makes life interesting. So, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.